how much candidates have managed to collect as they file their fundraising reports from the first 6 months out of the year. And in some cases, we're also learning how leftover campaign cash is being spent. In particular, Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy's filing raised some interest since it appears he is using money given to him by political donors to pay his rent in Albany. Now, this is allowed under state law, but it's also the kind of spending that Governor Andrew Cuomo argued against when he was running last fall. Here to discuss the gray areas of election law and other pertinent political issues are our insiders. They are veterans of the Capitol, and they're joining us each week. Tonight, I am joined by Steve Greenberg, a former communications director for 2 Assembly speakers. He is now a pollster for Siena College and also president of Greenberg Public Relations. Also with us is Dave Catalfamo. He was the communications director for former Governor George Pataki. He's now a partner at Capital Public Strategies. Nice to see you, man.
Good to see you.
You know, it's getting awfully long. By the time that I'm done telling everybody what you guys do with all of your accolades, the whole segment will be over. I'm just saying.
You can just
well, we can move along.
Yeah, Dave and Steve.
Dave and Steve are here. You know them. Here they are. Oh, Steve and Dave. Oh, wow. Wow, that's so bipartisan of you.
You can go alphabetically. It's fine.
Okay, let's just start with this election law thing because I am the only one here who disagrees.
True.
I think that it's a little weird to be able to be allowed, and as I said, it's totally legal, to spend your campaign cash on your rent in Albany for a job that you knew when you took it didn't have a housing stipend. Assumedly, you would pay it out of your pocket or done the taxpayers.
Well, right, and nobody pays it out of their own pocket.
That's not true.
The Attorney General, the Comptroller, 212 legislators all bill the state a per diem for every day they spend in Albany.
Okay, but it doesn't cover all of your expenses for being in Albany, including your food and whatever housing you have.
Well, it depends on how you live.
That's right.
Okay,
a lot of
fine.
them share apartments and things like that.
Right, but if you stay in a hotel, it's not covering it.
Probably not. That's
Okay.
right.
No,
Yeah.
but if you rent an apartment, as the Lieutenant Governor is doing, it probably does more than cover it.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, I think if you ask taxpayers, would they rather see the Lieutenant Governor use his campaign committee to pay for housing in Albany, or would they rather see the Lieutenant Governor bill the taxpayers of the state for his housing in Albany, since he has not provided state housing, as the governor is?
Yep.
I think they would say this is the right way to go.
Okay, that may be, Steve. Then the law needs to change because the law right now says you can't use your campaign cash for, quote, personal use, although you can use it to further your time in office.
But not further your time in office in
service,
carrying
right.
out your duties in office. And this certainly allows him to carry out his duties.
And I'm going to agree with Steve 100%.
You can, go for it.
In furtherance of his role as Lieutenant Governor, he needs to be in Albany. You know, it is legal. I don't even find an ethical problem with it, candidly.
Okay, neither do I. I just think that it's a little strange.
While I agree that we need to change the election laws, and I think most New Yorkers would agree we need to change the election laws and really tighten up what campaign money can be spent on, I would not like to see this written out. I would like to see this continue to be a valid campaign expense by a candidate.
Because we were actually talking about this prior to coming on, and I said, all right, well, what about your legal fund? Because arguably, if you're paying your attorney to defend you from charges, you are using your campaign money to further and support your time in office to avoid getting kicked out. I mean, is that an appropriate use of your campaign funds?
And honestly, in my view, it is. I mean, it's allowed in Congress. It's allowed in New York. And, you know, the folks who should have a problem with it, if they were to choose to, would be the folks who donate to candidates. And if they see donations being used in a way that are inconsistent with what they think they're giving money for, then they should stop giving.
Right.
Same with
but you
same
can't
with housing,
stipulate.
same with legal
it's
funds.
not like it's sort of like when you give money to a nonprofit. You
Absolutely.
can't say, I would like my $100 to go. In some nonprofits you can, but most of them, you know, they've got clearance. They've got in many cases, they've got CEOs who make a lot of money.
Well, and I'm willing to bet, I have no idea, but I'm willing to bet that if a campaign contributor wrote or called Lieutenant Governor Duffy and said, you know, I didn't contribute money to your campaign committee for this purpose, I would like my money back, my guess is the Lieutenant Governor would return the money.
He's got a reputation of a stand-up guy. He's a very stand-up guy. I'm sure he would. Plus, it's a reform-minded administration. They ran on reform. It's just that they ran on so many kinds of reform, and they haven't necessarily achieved them all. Of course, they've only been around for 7 months, but you know, this is one of those things that they haven't yet gotten around to.
And I think it's important. I think campaign finance reform should be at or near the top of the list for next session.
I think it's way down the list for things that voters care about and that are important to people having jobs and paying less taxes.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
And I really do. And I think it actually, it's way, way down the list so far as, A, things that voters care about, and B, things that are actually impactful.
Okay. But what voters care about jobs and taxes. They don't care about gay marriage, and yet that got done.
I agree with David to the extent that it's way down on the voters' list of priorities. I was saying, for me, I would like to see this be a priority for next year, because I think that ensuring integrity and ethics in our electoral process is important, whether the voters think so or not.
But we've been through this now for the past however many years, and the problem is that we can make the laws and rules as tight as we want and as tight as we can. The problem is the people sometimes. The people insist upon obfuscating or using the gray areas.
Not the people, the public, the people who hold the office.
The people who hold the office, yeah, in too many cases. And no matter how tight the rule is, no matter how we do it, they're going to find ways. People who are unethical are going to do unethical things.
That's probably true, but we can write tighter laws. We have not tried to write tight laws.
Well, I don't want to run out of time here before we move on to something else, and I do want to move on to two things. The first is Larry Schwartz. There's some change in the administration pretty early. I mean, when you guys were running the show, you had people stay at least for a year, right? The top secretary.
Yep.
So were you surprised that Larry Schwartz replaced Steve Cohen? He's a holdover from the Patterson administration, although he is a Mario Cuomo loyalist.
No, only because it's been rumored for forever now that this was going to happen.
A good move by Andrew Cuomo?
Definitely, he's a savvy insider from having served in his father's administration, having been a senior, executive in Westchester County government for a number of years.
Suffolk County as well.
Suffolk County as well. I forgot about that. I think if I were a county executive and a local government person, I'd be happy to have at least somebody there who understands the problems that we face, and be interesting to see how Larry plays through on the mandate relief stuff, which is going to be very important going forward. But I think it's good for the governor. And can I say one more thing really quickly? Is that
on campaign finance reform?
No.
Just checking.
I do think, and it actually was one of the things that we tried to do, was that taking people from the administration and putting them in the agencies, which I know isn't exactly what's happening here, but it is part of what's going on, I think, with Team Cuomo. I think it's very good so far as getting people that you trust and understand how you do business and how you want the administration to move forward is a very effective and smart way to build your government.
Yeah, a different reputation, at any rate, and a style of management between Steve Cohen, who has departed now and actually came with Andrew Cuomo from the Attorney General's office, and Larry Schwartz, who is, like the governor, reputed to be a very hard-charging, aggressive guy, whereas Steve Cohen was more of a, not to say he wasn't hard-charging and aggressive when he wanted to be and needed to be, but he has a little bit of a different style.
Well, they're outward personalities. I mean, Larry is clearly a type A, and Steve appeared to be more of a type B.
To the degree that that's accepted in Cuomo land, but yeah.
But let's think back about this for a second. To the campaign last year, who was Andrew Cuomo's campaign manager? I would say the answer is, regardless of who had the title, Andrew Cuomo.
Right, okay. Trick question.
Who is Andrew Cuomo's secretary to the governor or chief of staff? I don't care who has the title, it's Andrew Cuomo.
Well, he has proven himself to be very savvy and adept in politics.
And there's a lot of also leadership on the second floor in the senior staff. I mean, let's not forget, you have somebody on the on the governor's staff now who was secretary to the governor under Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. So you have a lot of senior people there as well. I mean, the real key is how well do they work together as a team to accomplish what the governor wants them to accomplish.
And maybe the bigger key, which I think we're going to find out over the duration of time, is whether or not they have enough portfolio, enough trust from the governor to be able to take on the things that come at them sideways. I think that they're very good at taking on the things that they focus on and decide to do, because the governor is very much involved in those things. When they get something that comes at them sideways, are they going to have the ability to manage that?
But when you talk about teams and teams working together, I mean, one thing that we've noted about the Cuomo administration is that they are unusually capable when it comes to dealing with the legislature, right? It is not the same thing that we've been seeing with Washington. I mean, Washington, as I noted at the beginning of the show, is actually a mess, right? It's a total mess. And at this point, it's unclear to me whether or not the Obama administration is going to be able to get a deal, a debt ceiling deal with Congress. Do you believe that they will, from a partisan standpoint?
Yeah, I think they'll get a short-term deal. But I think that the president has badly mismanaged this issue from day one. He's very late to the game, and the proposal that he trots out now is less than his own commission, Bull Simpson, so far as savings and bringing down the deficit long-term. And I think when you look at the numbers, are even less than what Vice President Biden has come up with in his working group. The reality is that what he's put out right now is trading long-term tax increases for shorter-term growth and entitlements, and that's a problem.
Well, I think there is certainly blame enough to go around on both sides. Speaker Boehner, Senate Majority Leader Reid, and the President. The bottom line is I think the people want to see them get together and figure out a deal. I think the Republicans...
I can't agree on that because they went out and they voted for Paul Ryan's plan, which is basically like, some of us would have said, the House Republicans did. They showed tremendous leadership, taking on very tough votes.
That's a partisan vote.
But they didn't have to vote for it.
But it was a purely partisan position that the American people as a whole don't support, just like they don't support the whole Obama administration position. What I think people need to see out of Washington is Boehner give a little, Reid give a little, Obama give a little.
But I'll go back to Boehner and the House didn't have to vote on it, and actually became a key issue in the race in Western New York, the Ryan plan and what happened to Medicare. Now, they could have put out a nice plan and said, oh, it's just Paul Ryan's plan, but the fact is they marched down and they took a very tough vote, and they have led the way on this issue.
Yeah,
and I think
but that's in part because the parties, well, because the parties are very much, and maybe you don't agree, but it seems to me that the parties at this point, or the conferences at this point, are very much driven by the extremes on all sides.
Exactly.
The liberals are saying in the Democratic conference in the House, no, you can't touch Medicare, no, you can't touch Social Security. Jerry Nadler today said there will be no Democratic votes if you change the Medicare eligibility age. No Democratic votes. Nancy Pelosi.
Well, then Jerry Nadler ought to move to Greece, because that's where. No, but I'm serious. If that's where Jerry Nadler and Democrats and the liberal side want to be, they might as well get on a plane and go to Greece right now. It's crazy.
But that's
everybody. There's not a person in America who thinks that makes sense.
That position is crazy. I agree with you, but you know what? It's no crazier than the Ryan Boehner position. Both extremes, and I think you hit it, Liz. Both parties are acting in extremist positions.
I think that is liberal double talk to try to make to try to make everything be equal all the time.
Okay.
It's not. The president's failed to lead.
Liberal double talk. Okay, stop. It's not that I don't love it when you guys mix it up. It's just that you came a little late. It was like a slow boil, which probably is my fault, and I'll take full responsibility for it. But unfortunately, we're out of time. So keep the lid on all of that, and we'll get back to it some other time. Steve Greenberg, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Shake hands and be nice.